Raise some
Cain. You gotta raise some Cain. In the heartland where the faith runs strong, we've seen the shadows growing long. Watch those around us be deceived. Yeah, the fight is at our doors, no matter who we believe. Corruption, lawless day and night, we'll speak the truth into the light. We'll bring the battle, heed the call, watch the whole thing fall. We gotta raise some Cain, show the lies, break some chains and make things right. Feel the power, be the change. Time is now. We gotta raise some Cain.
Welcome, Patriots, to another edition of the Raising Cain Show. Tonight, we're going to have a conversation with Ronald F. Owens Jr., who served as an information officer at the California Department of Public Health. He is a true whistleblower, and he is going to talk about what he experienced in California related to COVID. So it's going to be an interesting conversation tonight, folks. But you know the deal. I'm going to run our commercial now so we can have an uninterrupted conversation, and we will be right back after a short break.
Heard of Q Broadcast? It's taking the world by storm. People are cutting the cord to their high cable bills and moving away from streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and others for something better. Q Broadcast. For just $60 a month, you'll get access to every channel you could ever want, including HBO, Cinemax, and Starz. And the best part? There are no contracts, no hidden fees, and you're free to cancel anytime. With Q Broadcast, you can enjoy streaming live TV, movies, and top series on up to 5 devices at once. Whether you're at home or on the go, Q Broadcast makes sure your entertainment is always at your fingertips. Imagine being able to watch all your favorite channels from anywhere, anytime, without any restrictions. We're talking about thousands of movies, hundreds of TV series, and a huge library of live channels, all in one place. And don't forget video on demand and pay-per-view events. Those are included at no extra cost, so you'll never miss a big event again. Now, take a second and think about your current cable bill. You're probably paying anywhere between $100 and $300 every month, locked into long-term contracts and hit with surprise rate increases. With Q Broadcast, that's a thing of the past. It's just $60 a month. No contracts, no extra fees, no hidden costs, and no price hikes. Why juggle multiple subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, and cable when Q Broadcast gives you everything you need in one convenient package? People everywhere are switching to Q Broadcast, saving money and getting more content than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and sign up for Q Broadcast today. Just $60 a month, no contracts, no hidden fees. It's time to take control of your entertainment and start streaming smarter.
Welcome back, folks. We have got a great story that we're going to get into tonight. And, my background as a whistleblower, I have a soft spot in my heart for fellow whistleblowers. We're all kind of part of the same club. And tonight, joining me is Ronald F. Owens Jr., who served as an information officer at the California Department of Public Health for nearly 15 years. And in early 2022, he uncovered alarming data showing that the COVID-19 shots were injuring and killing Californians, with a particularly devastating impact on people of color, in fact. When he repeatedly warned his superiors, including referencing statements from HHS Secretary Xavier Becerra, the bureaucracy, it didn't protect the public. It protected the narrative. And so I think this is an important topic to get into. I think that there is, I'm very disappointed, in fact, at the fact that we haven't seen justice on this issue yet. But I hope that by bringing Ronald to this show and him being able to get out and talk about what he experienced, that it will help us move towards that. Ronald, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me, Nate Cain, and I agree with you. I also have a fond place in my heart for whistleblowers, and I'm familiar with your story as well. So thank you for having the courage to do the right thing at a very pivotal moment in our nation's history. And I appreciate being on your show tonight.
Well, I know, like myself, you're a man of God, and I couldn't have done it without God's help. There's just no way, and I know that it's probably very similar for you as well.
Well, interesting you say that, because I'm going to jump to this particular incident that happened. I was already on thin ice with management, and this was, I believe, in October of 2022. I had warned my management that COVID-19 vaccines are killing people of color, Blacks, Latinos, Indigenous people at about 2 times the rate of white Americans. I'd already apprised my management in October of 2021 that properly dosed ivermectin can cure COVID. So I was already on thin ice with management. And so I was about ready to send a third email, the second warning about the dangers of the COVID-19 vaccine. Before I clicked send, I walked outside, looked at the sky, and asked God, Lord, what are they going to do to me when I send them this email? Because I was already in thin ice.
Mm-hmm.
You know what God told me? I felt in my spirit immediately. God said to me, what am I going to do to you if you don't?
Yeah. Yep. I had a similar kind of sentiment. I remember sitting at my desk at FBI, and I was thinking to myself, this will destroy my career, put my life and my family at risk, and probably not solve anything. and I remember thinking, this vision, I guess you could say, popped into my head of me standing before God at the great judgment, and him saying, you remember that time I put you at the FBI and you didn't do what I asked you to do? And that really scared me. And that I'm more afraid of God than I am of men. And it helped me, I think, to push me over the edge to finally go forward. And it was tough. But tonight I want to get into your story. And so, tell us a little bit about yourself, because a lot of people may never have heard your story. They might not know who you are. Tell us maybe, how did you get into working in public health? And, give us a little bit about your background.
Well, I was a person who stuttered when I was a kid growing up. And I was able to talk fine at home, but outside, around my classmates, I stuttered. So the best way that I could communicate was through writing. And so I'm thinking, you know what? I want to pursue a career that involves writing. So I got a degree in government journalism at Sac State. I graduated in 1986. I paused because I'm thinking, oh my God, that's 40 years ago. Coming up next month.
Wow. Yeah.
So I knew that the Public Information Officer series, in-state service, would be my career path. So I worked for about 4 or 5 years at the California Newspaper Publishers Association as their publications editor. I was in charge of putting together the association's newspaper, not only using my writing skills, but learning how to put together a newspaper from inception to start. So I had that experience, and I got into state service. My first full-time public information officer job was at the Department of Motor Vehicles. I worked there between 1998 to 2004. I was the editor of their quarterly, or was it monthly? I forget which, but I was the editor of their employee newspaper, in addition to helping get answers when we got media, when we got questions from the media.
Mm.
And then I worked at the California Community College's Chancellor's Office from 2004 to 2009. There are three major higher education systems in California. The community college system, I think there are 112 colleges, could be more. I haven't been there for a while, so I lost count. There's the California State University system, which I'm a product of, and then there's the University of California system. So I wanted to get a promotion at California Community Colleges. I was what you call an Information Officer 1, and I wanted to get a promotion to as an Information Officer 2. Two jobs came up: the California Highway Patrol and the California Department of Public Health. Well, you know, I'm a dude. I like motorcycles and cars. I wanted the CHP gig, but God had other plans. So the commander, that's what they call her at CHP, hired somebody else. And who would ultimately be my deputy director for a couple of years, hired me at CDPH. For the first few years between 2009 and 2020, it's very, very uneventful. I saw some things that were contradictory regarding what is good public health. For example, the issue of tattooing came up frequently from mainstream media. I'm not a doctor, but I do have a lot of common sense. And I, with all due respect to those who have tattoos, I just don't think that in inking our bodies, inking our skin, which is the largest organ of the human body, is not too healthy. This is my personal opinion, but people who get tattoos, that's fine. But the point I'm trying to make is that rather than deal with the issue, whether tattoos are healthy or not, there was this tossing of the potato. We, the Office of Public Affairs at that time, they're now called the Office of Communications, we get the frequently asked question from the media. So we'd send it to the Center for Environmental Health. They would send it back to us. No, that's not our area. Go to the Government Affairs Department. Shipped off the answer there. Oh, well, we can't cover that because there's no laws requiring us. You might want to ask the local health department. So there's an organization within CDPH which basically corrals all the county health officers, and they have their interaction. So all this passing, Nate, of the hot potato, it was just like nobody wanted to touch the issue because tattooing was becoming really, really popular in the culture and especially California. So that's just one issue that I saw where we would toss the hot potato. Another had to do with the needle exchange program and aiding and abetting men having sex with men. It seemed like public health didn't have to do with anything about public health, but what is politically popular. Tattooing is politically popular. Men having sex with men is politically popular. So those are the observations that I saw and observed and noted between 2009 and the beginning of COVID in 2020.
Now, I want to get into how you first discovered, what you ultimately ended up, blowing the whistle on. I know that for me, I was extremely cautious, would be putting it lightly. Suspicious is probably more accurate. And the main reason that I felt that way was, number one, just how the media, was on board with this singular narrative, and how any any difference whatsoever in that narrative, it was immediately shut down and censored, and people were losing accounts and all kinds of things. And so I was extremely suspicious right off the bat, and having been a federal whistleblower, I would say that I have a natural aversion to trusting the government. But there were a lot of people who took the information that was coming to them through the media, through their doctors, through their hospitals, through government officials, and they took it as gospel truth. And that includes everything from, it'll just be a couple of weeks of staying put in your homes, in all the way to, this vaccine here is safe and effective, and it will prevent your grandma from getting COVID, all of which were lies. And so I very early on, I just knew it in my gut that something was seriously wrong. But when for you was kind of like the aha moment when you realized that something was seriously off? And did that come before or after you had this discovery about about the COVID shots and the harm that they were causing? Tell us a little bit how you got, first of all, how did you even end up looking into this issue?
Well, Nate, before I answer your question, I had already knew about the Tuskegee experiment. Encoded in the DNA of many Black people is the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, which was conducted between 1930 and early 70s. In my lifetime, that Tuskegee experiment stopped when I was 15, 16 years old. And basically, 400 Black men during that, 30 to 40 year time period were just observed. They were like lab rats. They were studied. And I thought I read somewhere that some of the men were actually somehow exposed to syphilis, but I can't find that online right now. But definitely, when they contracted syphilis, rather than being treated and cured, they were the observers, the forerunner of the CDC, I might add, took a clipboard out and just took notes. So anyway, I just was basically new, having that historical perspective, and then the observations that I saw within public health. I just was suspicious when this all came down from the get-go. So answering your question, I belong to social media. I have several social media platforms, one of which is Telegram. I go to Telegram every now and then just to see what people are talking about, what information is being exchanged. I was at one time a consumer of the mainstream media. I gravitated toward watching Fox News as opposed to CNN or the legacy media. It seems like that the legacy media on the left, they basically have their narrative, and then there's Fox News, and for some reason, the majority of people on the left object to the lone conservative media. But anyway, I'm digressing. So I go to Telegram to basically find out what's going on. So I don't know what particular Telegram channel I learned what Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra said on April 14th, 2022. He was at a Convening on Equity summit, and basically he said, he just basically casually commented, he said, quote, "We know these vaccines," talking about the COVID-19 vaccines, "are killing people of color, Blacks, Latinos, Indigenous people at about 2 times the rate of white Americans." And I was aghast at seeing that quote, at hearing that quote, I remember backing up the video many, many times just to see and hear what I heard. And after digesting what he said, I began to look at the reaction of the people around him. I mean, the people around him were, example, was the Housing and Urban Development Secretary, Marsha Fudge. And there was another Biden cabinet official, I can't remember her name, but yeah, Susan Rice, and the interpreter. And another woman, I can't remember her name, but nobody reacted. Nobody said, Secretary Becerra, would you please back that up? Did you mean what you said? There was no reaction. So that struck me, that what he said had some sort of basis to it. So that was the main thing that awakened, that alarmed me, and said, you know what, I got to tell my bosses about this.
Now, you mentioned about going to Telegram and getting alternative sources of news. I think that's a critically important part of why myself as well did not fall prey to I see this as a big problem right now, where a lot of people, they only get their news from a singular source, and they don't examine or get any alternative news. So I think that's probably that's probably one of the biggest problems, I think, with a lot of public officials, is when they don't have that, and they don't have any kind of thing that challenges what's in that narrative bubble that they have. They're only getting their news from one source. I think that leads to a lot of problems, not just with public policy, but also, it's what allows for things like the Tuskegee experiments, to be done, and for nobody to go to jail for it. This is where I'm at right now when it comes to COVID, is that why, when they knew these kinds of things, and they knew that there were people dying, at an alarming rate from these things, why did they, choose to hold that back and lie to people? Because I can understand people being maybe not knowing and making a mistake. I think there could be forgiveness for that. When people were afraid and they were fearful, and so they fast tracked some drugs. And when Trump was first talking about that, he made it very clear that he was not for mandates, but he was for making it available for anybody who was at high risk or whatever. Turns out, I think it actually probably killed a lot of people at high risk, but I don't think that there was malice, necessarily at that stage. But it became clear that when they started seeing the evidence, they either turned a blind eye to it or flat out lied about it. And a case in point was, I think, CDC Director Walensky. She got information from Pfizer's own data, and that showed that the COVID vaccine was causing spontaneous abortions, that it was causing, stillborn births, and that breastfeeding mothers, that it was passing through the milk into these infants that were, breastfeeding, and they were having problems as a result of this COVID vaccine as well. She knew this, and 5 days after knowing this, she goes out and makes a public statement that recommending that pregnant women and nursing mothers take the vaccine because it's safe and effective. She knew that she was lying, and yet she still did it. She should be in prison, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree, Nate. I can't ascribe to the motivations of people, but we have to judge their action or non-action.
Mm-hmm.
When people clearly know that what they're marketing is harming people and they still continue to push it, we can only conclude that they're trying to kill us.
Yeah.
I appreciate President Trump, but he's got to know that he and Secretary Kennedy, I'm going to be very blunt, have the power of the pen to stop pushing the COVID-19 vaccines. It's still being pushed to kids, and they haven't done so. Why they haven't done so, I don't know. But I'm beginning to look at President Trump sideways, even though I voted for the man in 2016, in 2020, and 24. So rather than focus on what the people at the top are doing or not doing, I'm doing what God has tasked me to do. And as General Flynn has noted, get involved locally and try to change things from the bottom up rather than the top down. So answering your question, I think there is a depopulation agenda at work. That is my personal opinion and belief. Now, when I was at the California Department of Public Health, and I shared what Becerra said, and by the way, Javier Becerra, he's running for governor in the state of California. Not only is he running for governor, but he's leading in the polls. This man could he could be the governor. And it just galls me that there are so many people suffering and so many people died because he didn't pick up the phone and call Dr. Tomas Aragon, then director of the California Department of Public Health, say, look, we have a problem here. These vaccines are killing people. The information that I share with my management, I wasn't able to conclusively find any data that these vaccines are killing people twice the rate of white Americans. But I found a lot of data that these vaccines are killing and injuring people, period. I don't care what color you are.
Yep.
So answering your question, I think another factor is that people don't like to admit they're wrong. People don't like to, particularly powerful people with a lot of titles after their names or doctors before their names or the positions they've been appointed to. They don't like to admit they're wrong. There could be a legal component where if you admit you're wrong, then you're opening yourself up to criminal liability. I don't know, but as a man of God, and if I'm in a position of power, and if I admit that I'm wrong, and if that opens me up to criminal liability, well, then so be it.
Yep, I agree. I think all of us are going to be. We're all going to stand before God, and by the grace of Jesus Christ, that my sins are forgiven. But I think we are going to stand before Him and still have to give an account. Especially if there was things that we knowingly, lacked the moral courage to do the right thing. That's one thing that I've always really been, I guess, frustrated about within the church, in particular. I know what to expect from the world, but for those that are my, my brothers and sisters in Christ, it's not just about not doing what's wrong. It's also about doing what's right when we can. And if we don't do what's right when we can, that lack of moral courage, in my opinion, is just as bad as, doing what's wrong. Because it is, and I think the scriptures support that. I look at, what you had to deal with. I mean, I couldn't imagine, FBI was hard enough, but, tell me about, when you did decide to start bringing this up, how did management deal with it? Describe the retaliation and pressure that you faced for simply trying to protect Californians.
Before I answer that question, what you said really, really reminded me of a scripture in the book of Revelation. There's a recitation of sinners that will be eternally punished in the lake of fire. First on the list is not pedophile. First on the list is not a murderer or a rapist or whatever. First on the list, and one of the translations, I believe, is faint-heartedness or faint-hearted or coward.
Cowardice.
Cowardice. That's the first recitation of sinners on the list. I think that's particularly noteworthy.
Yeah.
Because we know evil's always going to exist. It's up to us, good people, to check it.
Mm-hmm.
I did digress. What was the question again?
Just when you finally came forward, how did management handle it? What was the retaliation like?
Yes.
Get into that a little bit. What kind of pressure did you face?
Well, the first time that I broached the subject regarding what Becerra said about these vaccines are killing people was in April of 2022, and the response was, "Thanks for your email, Ron." Very dismissive, polite, but that's it. That really riled me, angered me, exasperated me, disgusted me, depressed me, because I was again going to these alternate sources and finding out that these vaccines are not good and they are injuring and killing folks. Okay, so 5 or 6 months later, I decided to revisit the issue again. And at the time that I initially shared with my management about the number of people that died across the United States, it was 26,000, more than 26,000 people. There's 5,000 more people that died in October of 2022. Excuse me, October 2022. And the information that I was sharing with them was from the CDC's website, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. Actually, it's co-managed by the CDC as well as the FDA. And so I remember sending that email, and that was when I noted earlier that I felt like there was going to be more blowback this time when I sent that email. So basically, my deputy director, she never responded to that email, but my direct supervisor did. And basically he said, quote, "My COVID-19 vaccine concerns is in conflict with the department's stance and research findings on vaccination." He also said he had invited me to learn about the department's official position, and he shared with me an intranet link. And the threat was this, where he expressed, quote, "concern that my personal research efforts may be a misuse of both state time and equipment," close quote. Essentially, he threatened me with disciplinary action. Actually, I'm going to make light of this particular optics. I'm this black guy. And I've got two white superiors who claim to be liberal, inclusive. They believe in diversity, equity, inclusion. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling my two liberal white supervisors who believe in DEI that these vaccines are killing people of color, and they threaten to discipline the black guy. You know why? Because I had the temerity to go against this particular mantra that these vaccines are safe and effective. Mm. So after that particular veiled threat, I discussed with my family, I prayed about it, I talked over with my friends whether I should pursue some sort of file some sort of complaint with the Office of Civil Rights in the department. I decided against doing so because I didn't want this to be about me. I didn't want to come across like I'm some sort of angry black man filing a complaint against my white management. That's not the issue. The issue is that people are being injured and dying, and we need to address it. So I decided not to respond to that threat. All right, let me fast forward to August of 2023. We held daily staff meetings, the media team, and there was a particular request came in from one, probably the only publication who critically asked questions about everything COVID. And they asked about if there are any people who have been adversely affected by the vaccine. And if so, they asked more questions about that. Well, we would talk about press questions and devising talking points, how to respond to it, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's fair game. That's what you do in a public affairs or communications or media team office. At that time, Nate, I decided to broach the subject of what Javier Becerra said. During that call, there's about 10 to 15 people on that call. I wasn't able to eloquently recite the quote. I got some of it out. And as soon as I started talking and going there, my deputy director was telling me to be quiet. She was telling me that we've already resolved this. She's trying to tell me to shut down and to be quiet. And in the Black community, we talk smack, you know, somebody's talking and you just keep talking to make your point. You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't going to be quiet. I wasn't going to be muzzled. So when the deputy director saw that I wasn't going to be quiet, she directed the media team supervisor, the same manager who months before issued that veiled threat. She said, Brian, shut down the call, shut down the call. And that's what he did while I was in mid-sentence. So I received 2 communications after that. One was an informal, like, you need to be respectful to management. And the second one was a more formal counseling memorandum, which basically said, look, stop sharing your personal beliefs. I wasn't sharing my personal beliefs. I shared with them what a federal high-ranking Biden official said.
Mm-hmm.
I was sharing with them what's on a CDC website. But nevertheless, that was their talking point back to me. Stop sharing your personal beliefs.
Yeah.
And then the counseling memorandum also indicated that I was supposed to behave myself in a year. And if I behave myself in a year, and I'm paraphrasing, I could petition to have the counseling memorandum removed from my personnel record. They were setting it up for me to have my pay docked should I send him another email or whatever. And I knew this, having worked in state service for more than 28, 29 years or so. And I just felt led of the Lord, Nate, that I could not play this cat and mouse game with management back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Californians needed to know this injury-sparing, life-saving information. So I announced my premature retirement. I wanted to work there longer to increase my pension. Plus, I had a great job, you know. So I was paid quite well. I was the most tenured staff person at that office at that time. And when I immediately incurred a 55% pay cut, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
When I looked at the numbers, I'm thinking, oh my Lord. So I had to pull Social Security to make ends meet. And I didn't want to pull Social Security then, but I just had to. But what I did was doing the right thing. It's not about money. It's not living a life of comfort. It's about doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And as you aptly noted earlier, God's going to judge each of us what we did or did not do when given the opportunity to do so.
Yep. Now, you've spoken before more than 50 of California's 58 county boards of supervisors.
That's correct.
What has been the reaction from them? You know, and tell us a little bit about that experience.
Well, before I answer that question, basically after I got out, I wrote a book called Muzzled Truth. You can see the poster behind me. My website is muzzledtruth.com. And I spoke before small groups. And I met one of the Board of Supervisors here in Sacramento County, Sue Frost. She and I had a sit-down meeting for the first time on my birthday, May 15th, 2024. And then on May 21st, 2024, I stood in front of the local governing body where I live, the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors, and shared with them this information. And I came back 3 or 4 other times. Each time you're only given 2 minutes to talk. And each time I came back, I covered or shared different aspects of this information. And I'm thinking, you know what? I need to put this all in writing. So I wrote a 5-page PDF, dated it July 23rd, 2024, sent it to the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. And I'm thinking, you know what? I should probably inform the 57 other county boards of supervisors throughout California. So the entire last week of July 2024, I went to 57 other county websites, copied 291 email addresses to add on to the 5 emails or addresses that I sent to Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. There are 296 county elected officials here in California. I created 57 separate PDFs addressed to each county with the respective board of supervisor of those counties in that particular email. And it took about a good week for me to pull all this together, send all that out, thinking, you know what? And God is leading me along the way. It's time for me to follow up the written notification that I sent to all 58 county boards of supervisors and appear in person to each board of supervisors. So answering your question, to date, I have gone to 53 of 58 county boards of supervisors, and I'm urging them to direct their county health officers to stop promoting, stop administering, and stop administering the COVID-19 vaccines. For the most part, their reaction, some is shock. Sometimes I feel anger from the board of supervisors. I have a sensitivity in my spirit that they're angry. Like, how dare you say anything bad about the vaccines? It's like these vaccines are like religious or something. I don't know, man. I've gotten emails from some board of supervisors. They thank me for coming. They say that what the information that I brought to them confirmed what they felt. Some of the response is, well, we didn't mandate it in our county anyway. And my response to that, Nate, and to your audience, that's not good enough.
Yep.
You have a statutory responsibility, according to Health and Safety Code here in California, 101025, to preserve and protect the public health. I was at Riverside County Board of Supervisors a couple of weeks ago, and I told them, even if you think the vaccines are safe and effective, you have a statutory responsibility, indeed a moral and ethical responsibility, to inform your residents accordingly. So that's the message that I've been bringing to the Board of Supervisors throughout California. As I indicated, most of them just sit and look at me and there's no action.
Yeah.
You know, but there are people that are sitting in the board chambers that are listening. There are people who are watching live remotely. There are people, staff members from each county watching the proceedings from their desktop computer in their cubicles. There are people who are watching on the replay. So we don't know. I say we, because another woman who has come along with me from Butte County, and that's a person I would recommend that you interview as well, because she has her separate whistleblower story from her county. She's gone to 34 counties. I've gone to 53, and I've got 5 more to go, all in the southern state. Imperial, San Diego, Orange, San Bernardino, and Los Angeles County. I'll end up in Los Angeles County sometime in the fall, and I have basically commission, is that a good verb? A filmmaker. Her name is Jennifer Sharp. She produced a great documentary, and I would recommend you and your viewers to feel it, to view it. It's titled Anecdotals. So if you put Anecdotals, the movie, you come up on her website, and YouTube hasn't taken it down, thank God. But it's a great documentary about people who have been injured by the COVID-19 vaccines, including Jennifer Sharp. And the reason why that I've commissioned her to do the documentary about me is because when I sent out my 5-page PDF in July of 2024, there are 16 sources backing up the information that I'm sharing, that I shared with them. And number 16 source is the documentary Anecdotals, who Jennifer Sharp produced.
Now, there's still a lot of people that are, and I mean, it just blows my mind, you know, how many people are still taking boosters, young people, because parents, you know, are taking their kids in for them. What's your message to parents, young people, those that are still being pressured to take boosters?
My message to everybody is don't take the shot, period. I mean, I've got subject matter experts, Dr. James Thorpe, Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, Dr. Ryan Cole, Dr. Renetta Moon, Dr. Judy Mikovits, Dr. Philip McCullough. He's an internist, cardiologist, and epidemiologist, and he's the most peer-reviewed person on the planet. They're all saying these shots need to be pulled, Secretary Kennedy. These shots need to be stopped, President Trump. These shots need to be stopped, Governor Newsom here in California. And I've carried this message with some of the gubernatorial candidates here in California as well. From Riverside County, Chad Bianco, who Judy Threep, the Butte County resident who's come along with me on the Stop the Shots mission. She and I sat down with Sheriff Chad Bianco. I don't know if you heard of him, but he's one of the leading Republicans running for governor here in California. And he said, look, this is last June 2025, prior to the administration of the COVID-19 vaccine. He told us, I was having my deputies having strokes and heart attacks in their 50s. Since the administration of the COVID-19 vaccines, I've been having my deputies having strokes and heart attacks in their 20s.
Yeah.
Another brave.
That right there is, to me, one of the most, and granted, it's anecdotal, but prior to COVID, I cannot remember a single person, not one, in my entire life that had a heart attack, you know, under the age of, you know, mid 40s. And, you know, it's like, and I certainly never ever saw anybody who was, you know, you know, in sports or, you know, in high school sports, dropping dead, you know, from, you know, a heart attack. It was unheard of. But yet now it's a common occurrence. The other thing that I'm seeing that is blowing my mind, that because the people who warned about it were right, is I can't tell you how many people I've seen that, you know, have developed these just out of control cancers, you know, that that don't make any sense, that, you know, that are very rare, but now not so rare. And, you know, it just, how, I don't know how other people can't see that, because like you may, even if you watched, you know, CNN every night, even if you got the narrative, you know, telling you, people have got to recognize something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like people in there, like how many people have died of rare cancers and of heart disease at young ages. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, Nate, I was attending a Dr. Peter McCullough event last November, early November last year, and he was sharing about the dangers of the COVID-19 vaccine, and he noted that Deion Sanders, remember Deion Sanders?
Yeah.
Played defensive back for the Atlanta Falcons. Matter of fact, when he was with the Falcons, Sanders was like he played in a World Series game and a football game the same day. Remember that? Anyway, Deion Sanders was a defensive back for the Falcons, for the Cowboys, for the 49ers, and then he ended his career with the Ravens. Now, Deion Sanders is the coach of the Colorado Buffaloes football team. Well, Dr. McCullough said that Deion Sanders, and you mentioned cancer, and I think there's a cancer in his litany of injuries. Started off with blood clots and had to amputate one or two of his toes, and he's just been having problems after problems. And Dr. Peter McCullough said it's a result of the COVID-19 vaccines.
Yeah. Well, final question I want to ask you. To other government employees that are watching who see corruption or data that's being hidden, what advice would you give them about choosing truth over job security?
Okay, the title of my book is Muzzled Truth. Management muzzled me, but we have a choice whether we're going to muzzle ourselves. We have to be bold. We have to be strong. We have to be bold and strong men and women of faith. And we have to do the right thing because, number one, it's the right thing to do. Number two, God is looking and watching us.
Mm-hmm.
And God will provide for us. God has provided for me and my financial challenges. And it's up to us to not allow our management, our superiors, the system, our fear, or even ourselves to muzzle us. So I would encourage everybody to be courageous, be bold, speak up.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you on that 100%. Tell us one more time where people can find you, where they can reach out to you, and where they can find your book.
Well, my book is available at muzzledtruth.com. It's available in paperback, in ebook, and in audiobook, read by yours truly. I wanted to announce also regarding this documentary that will be produced. It's going to be crowdfunded. And if you go to muzzledtruth.com, you'll see this guy sitting on a really cool Can-Am Spyder motorcycle. For those who don't know what a Can-Am Spyder is, it's a 2 tires in front, 1 tire in back motorcycle. And I've traveled more than 17,000 miles to 53 out of 58 counties on my Can-Am Spyder motorcycle. There's a button. I believe it's, I don't know if it's, there's a button there you can click to donate, because we like to produce a documentary, again, to document what happened. If we can't get these people, it's the wrong word. That's how I feel. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. If we can't get these people in the courts, we have to at least get them in the court of public opinion, expose them. The documentary is going to be about where I was and where I was on a certain date. So they can't feign, that's a great word, FEIGN, that they were not informed, because each 58 County Board of Supervisors will have 3 written notifications, 1 in-person appearance by me each. That doesn't include what Julie Threet is doing. And so this documentary, which I need help to produce, I really do. I need money to help produce this documentary, will also document that these public officials were informed between 2024, July 2024 to 2026.
Yep. Well, Ronald, you and I both know that we can do everything that we can, but at the end of the day, we need God's help.
Amen to that.
So I always close my show in prayer for that very reason.
Mhm.
So let's go ahead and bow our heads. Heavenly Father, I thank you, Lord, for giving Ronald the courage to stand up and speak the truth, even though it cost him. And I thank you for people like him around the country that are doing that. I pray that you would rise up and inspire other people through his story to do the right thing and to speak the truth when others don't want to do it. I also pray, Lord, that you would help him to continue and be successful in his mission of getting to each of these counties and help bring in the funding for this documentary. Lord, I pray your blessing over him and his family. And Lord, I just pray for our nation that you will help our leaders, even those our current leaders, to realize the danger of these COVID shots and take them off the market. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right.
Well, thank you so much for joining. And folks, I want to thank you for joining tonight and for being faithful listeners. There's a lot going on, and I'll have some announcements next week on next week's show. But a lot of changes are coming. So want to thank everybody for listening and for being here tonight with us. God bless. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
Raise some Cain. You gotta raise some Cain. In the heartland where the faith runs strong, we've seen the shadows growing long. Watch those around us be deceived. Yeah, the fight is at our doors, no matter who we believe. Corruption, lawless day and night, we'll speak the truth into the light. We'll bring the battle, heed the call, watch the whole thing fall. We gotta raise some Cain, show the lies, break some chains and make things right. Feel the power, be the change, time is now. We gotta raise some Cain.